Hi guys, my name is Dante, and welcome back to Overpaint. Today's patient is Little Candy Gamer. Hi Candy. Hi Boro. Thank you for your amazing tutorials. Hey, I'm Candy. I do Galactic Pokémon fan art generally. I'm really new to digital art. I would love to learn how to do a more painterly textured effect, as well as adding depth and dimension to my work. Well, this looks like a job for me. Let's do the painterly effect. And also, I'm gonna be using, which is something I need to be using in every Overpaint episode, just a flat round brush with no digital texture in the brush. Because that part, everyone has a different program, different way they approach brushes. You may not have all the painterly blending effects that I may have in my app. So to highlight the fact that it actually doesn't matter at all, I'll just always be using this flat round brush, unless there's like a legit reason to use the textured bristle one. So let's use this brush to add depth and painterly textured effect to this Galactic Pokemon, I suppose. It would be good to know the name of the guy. If this is like a fan art, I'll try to look it up. Oh, apparently it's that guy. It's like a perfectly spherical guy, but it may be like a kawaii version of his look, so maybe I should search a bit more. Yeah, it says chibi version. It's really hard to find the actual creatures, mostly just human characters. Oh my god, I found him. That's like 100% this guy. But what's the name? It was so hard to find, it's crazy, like not a single instance of this dude. I already started thinking this is like an original character for the universe. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to deal with just this one image, because there's no way I can find more. I mean, it's good enough. I see the proportions, the official look of the character. I assume it also has this thing in the back, and the tongue shouldn't actually look like a butt, although I kind of oddly like it this way. So overall, I want to keep the scene the way it is. It feels like we just want to see the whole character floating in space like this, like in the context of some kind of energetic jump or whatever. That's why there's no floor. Feels like it has a potential of a sticker, which is something I kind of have a growing interest towards lately. So, let's analyze a little bit the picture. First of all, I can see a hint towards the actual three-dimensional lighting. I can see the Terminators even, which is really cool. Even though overall the character is rendered relatively flat, meaning if the character would actually supposed to look kind of like this, you know, it's a round, three-dimensional character, and this is their arm and whatnot. Pretty much like this, somewhat of a capsule shape. But the rendering doesn't really support this idea. The rendering makes it look more like this. Legs and arms are appropriate, they look like full cylindrical shapes, but the main torso, in here, it becomes like flat. There's no actual feeling that this is a consistent cylindrical overall convex shape. So in here, we suddenly lose the feeling of curvature, and in here, this is like completely flat, and then suddenly we can see this curvature where suddenly the forehead is catching some new light. So overall image looks more like this, you know, there is this lack of actual full commitment to the 3D factor of this character. So let's start with fixing that. First of all, I'm gonna interpret the lighting, so this light source, the cyan one, it's coming from here, like slightly from the back. It feels like it needs to be somewhat of a rim light. Same as this red light source as well, so this one is coming from the back over there. And then we have just the white light source that is making the character from dark to this actual non-distorted color of the character. So I would assume it's hitting the character somewhere at this spot. And so this light source is coming from over here. From the point of viewer, slightly higher and to the right. So this light source is kind of like facing at this point mostly and then gradually getting darker like this. and the red one is hitting like from over there somewhere, like we can't see it, it's in the back, but then slightly a little bit as well. You see, like it's creating these waves of getting weaker and weaker as it faces away. So in here we also have these waves, and whenever they get darker we get the Terminator effect. It will be here, here. Of course these waves are very simplified. On every object we need to start over. Like if this spot is here for this light source, it will be like this, and the red one will be like that, and in here as well, like everything that's facing there. So this is what I'm gonna do on the lighting to make things feel a bit more three-dimensional. And another thing on the mouth, I don't know, it kind of seems like a good idea when we go for the actual full three-dimensional effect with a like painting style, when we want to introduce more realistic kind of interpretation of the character. This thing that the mouth is sticking out of the body like a separate thing, like it's kind of cool looking, but sort of defeats the purpose of the three-dimensional render. So why not we follow the way the character looks like in the 3D game right here? So the mouth is an actual hole in the body and not just a stylized sticker that is on top. We're gonna make sure the lips are over like this. I'll show that there's a cheek and everything, and there won't be shadow from the mouth on the body. It's more like the other way around it's supposed to be. So this part should do the opposite, like catch more light from the light source that is at the top to look like an actual bottom lip. So we'll do that. We'll also interpret the way the teeth are. So as we can see in the reference, bottom teeth usually show this kind of curvature downwards because it's a big mouth, and usually the bottom jaw will be like below our level of sight, which makes this imaginary cylinder of the teeth line being seen from the top, not from the bottom or the even level. That's why the curvature will be like this, not like this. So with that in mind, I'm gonna just start. Maybe I'll change the pose a little bit to make things feel a bit more three-dimensional. For instance, since we're probably seeing the character at their eye level, and in here there will be this curvature, that means the plane of feet will also be seen from the top, like this, even stronger than the teeth, because feet are even lower. And that means that this foot should actually be like here, and this foot should be actually here. So they would do this, following some kind of imaginary vanishing point over there. They're all rotated in that direction, so everything becomes smaller as it goes to the left. Let's start rendering. So as you can see, I work on every light separately, like the additional lights red and cyan, I add later after I define the main light source. So what I do is, I analyze what is facing away and make it darker, and as a result you can see where I can see that the forehead is already turning away like that from us. That means it's turning away from the light source as well. And so at the edges of everything, I get a darker look. On every spike as well, you can see close to the edges of every spike of the cylinder is getting dark, because I want to have the look as if the light source is close to the camera, not somewhere from the top. And then on top of that darkening, like in here on this eyebrow, I made this part brighter because it's looking at the light source, and then I grabbed the darker color and darkened it like this. And then I made a smooth gradient the way it should be to follow the shape. And then on top of that, I added the cyan light source that is adding that light from over there, from the right far angle. And I make sure that there is a darker line in between the cyan and the main light source, because these light sources are at a different angles. In between them, there's no third light source. That means in between them, there's gonna be a darker spot. So it will always happen. You don't just add a cyan contour where it's still a bright surface from the main light source. That wouldn't make any sense. If the surface is turning away from us enough to catch the cyan rim light, it means it's turned away enough to not catch enough of the main light source. This is cool that in the original Candy made these Terminator lines, like darker lines in between light sources. This is really cool. But sometimes I can see how lighting doesn't really make sense. Like in this line, I can see that the light source is coming from the back, but this part means that the light source is coming from the front over here all of a sudden, and in here it's coming from the top, and in here from the side again. And this is kind of like directly from us, so there's inconsistency in lighting. We need to make sure that each light source has the same angle on the whole character. Let's make the geometry of the face a bit more legit as well. I assume that we're looking at this guy at their eye level. That means there won't be like a crazy curvature of this cylinder of the teeth, like upper teeth, because they're really close to the eyes. And the second eye, the further one, it shouldn't go higher that much for the same reason. They should be kind of on the same level, both eyes. There we go, this feels more like the guy. So, as you can see, I just rotated the whole plane of eyes from being at a very weird angle to actually follow the teeth line that I created. I mean, overall, the whole further side of the face was kind of stretched upwards, and I brought it downwards so it would look like something that is placed correctly in front of the camera. Let's make the thick dark outlines around the eyes into like a darker skin close to the eyes. In the reference, there's like thick black outline. Let's interpret it like this. moved the whole Pokemon a bit to the left so the face would be closer to the center. And now I need to bring back some of the stars. I don't want to waste time on creation of an actual spray brush. Yeah, this feels better when we have more space on the right. And by the way, this is the comparison so far. So yeah, you can see how actually following the three-dimensional big shape of the character first, and then working separately on smaller objects as smaller cylinders, it really works out if you really pay attention to where the surface is facing. Do not get confused by the fact that there's like an arm showing up here. It doesn't mean that this part is for some reason should be facing upwards. This whole area is kind of mostly facing sideways downwards, therefore it will be much darker, and the legs, they're like way in the dark all together. Like the brightest spot right here, this color is this dark, so it's not this color at all. A little dents like this in between teeth to make them look more legit, like they're separate. Cool. Just add a little dents and that's it. They immediately became three-dimensional. Or they became three-dimensional because of the lighting, but they became separate because of these little dents. So let's add red lighting on these spikes on the back and on these fingers too. It will be very subtle because the spikes are facing the light source with the very tip. So neither side will actually catch a lot of the red light. Initially it was very different, like all kinds of lights, and the red is even like from the bottom of the tail. I guess this bottom spike is the tail, which makes no sense that the red light is at the bottom now, so I'm gonna change that. I guess that will be it. Looking pretty cool. Last touch, I feel like I want to bring back all of the outlines on the very perimeter of the character for the whole idea of a sticker. There we go, this is some clean look. Much better with strong and firm, consistent outline. I mean, like, it originally was like that, but then I messed it up, and then I fixed it. Let's maybe change the highlights. I kinda feel they're a bit too huge and sloppy in a way. Well, they're not sloppy, they're very precise, but the location of the highlights can also be physically based, so let's do that. Some areas are still sloppy with the shading, but overall I hope I did everything more or less precise. And whenever I'm like pushing the colors back and forth, that's how I get that artistic texture, while I'm trying to achieve that perfect value for every part of the surface. I'm getting like this stuff that looks interesting and like fills the whole picture with certain touch that looks really cool. So yeah, definitely avoid using soft brush, because no matter how much you push colors back and forth with the soft brush, it will never show any texture. It will be a perfect gradient. So just start right away with a very hard brush. The key here is to have your brush hard but very transparent, so you would be able to add like very subtle, very soft brush strokes. and add and remove those values little by little, and slight like ghosty trails of the older brushstrokes will slightly show through the new ones, and that creates the interesting texture. So yeah, this is it. Thank you, Little Candy Gamer, for your submission. This was a really interesting, just small character, literally in space, to work with a bit more precisely because, well, I have the time to work on just one simple character made of simple shapes, to shade it just the right way and to talk about it. So that was cool. I hope to do more of this kind of stuff with simpler objects. If any of you guys want me to overpaint your picture like this, the link to my Patreon page is in the end of this video. You become my patron and submit the picture with the message, I read the message and overpaint the picture. But for now, I thank you for watching if you did, I guess you did if you're here, leave a like and subscribe, tell a friend. Pay more attention to the rim lights. Do whatever you want, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Little Candy Gamer. That's a massive signage you have here. It's like really taking over the whole artwork. Maybe shrink it down a bit, or drop the whole thing overall. I used to do this kind of stuff as well, not sure if it ever helped me or anyone really. Just saying.